All right.
Hi, everybody. This is Josh Mansky, farm realtor from North Central Iowa. I am very excited today. We have Jim Rothermich, the Iowa land talker, joining us. Jim, pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me today, Josh. It's kind of a nice day here in Des Moines. Kind of low 80s and low humidity for once.
Gotta love it. Good for the state fair goers as well. Have you made your way out to the state fair yet?
I have, and the tractor pulls this afternoon, so I plan on going out there to the tractor pull and checking that out.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Jim, what's before we get started here, just for everybody, give not that you need an introduction, but give everybody a little introduction of who you are and what makes you so special here in the Iowa land market.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm a real estate appraiser, and I work for Iowa Appraisal in Des Moines, and I cover the state of Iowa, and I do get in some other states. I'm licensed in Iowa, Missouri. I appraise farms all over the state of Iowa, and I get down some into northern Missouri. And so I've been with Iowa Appraisal right at 8 years, going on 9 years here pretty quick. And we are a commercial agricultural appraisal firm. And so we have commercial appraisers and we have ag appraisers. So we also, our sister company is BCC Advisors, and they do business valuations, litigation support, and mergers and acquisitions. So we work together on a lot of projects here in the state of Iowa. Farmland that is an LLC or in corporations, we're always working together on stuff. Um, so I'm originally from Missouri. I grew up in central Missouri, which is a little town called Avaz, Auxvasse, which is right at the junction of Highway 54 and I-70. If you're going down to the Lake of the Ozarks, you're following a Highway 50, interstate, or not Interstate 54, Highway 54, and it's right there at the junction of I-70 and Highway 54, just north of that junction. I was raised in a grain and livestock farm, and so I got an appraisal business in 2006, and I've worked for a couple of different companies, but I've been with Iowa Appraisal for, almost 8 years now, going on nine. And so what my claim to fame is I keep track of all the land auctions in Iowa, and I report those via social media, Facebook, Twitter or X, and LinkedIn. And it's become very popular because nobody was doing that until I started doing it. Now there's several people doing it, but I am probably the most consistent and most popular, I'd say.
Labor of love, as we like to say with that, right?
Yeah. So the reason why I do it, I use that data every day. I use it for doing appraisals every day. I got to have it. So I just share it. It's the only reason why I do it. And I also, have a blog that I put out once a week on Monday on X that's got those land auction results in a week. And then my newsletter, which is very popular, goes out once a month via email. It's a free subscription. You can subscribe to www.iowaappraisal.com. That's got all those auction results in a month. And I put a little narrative in with that too. Um, just what I'm picking up from talking to auctioneers, getting results. I just throw it in there. It's just a paragraph or two, and that's about it. And the rest of it's all auction results. I've also started including cash rent auction results that I pick up, and it's not in there this month, but I'll start probably in September adding that when I start picking those results up. So that's my claim to fame, and I also am part of Land Hero, and Land Hero is a subscription based. Uh, Online service that allows you to access my cell database, and it's on a map, and it's just if you need to know what's going on in an area, a county, crop district, or the state, you can find out in minutes because all the information is right there at your fingertips. And that's www.landhero.us. So check it out.
We'll have that all in the comment section of the newsletter when we post that here. Jim will make sure all that's listed because it's a lot of good data.
Yep.
Jim,
Yep.
Jim, let's get into your findings here. Is it correct once a year you kind of put together your findings for what's going on in the land market? And of course, there's plenty to talk about here.
Yeah. So every 6 months, I analyze the data. Um, And the reason why I don't do it every month is because there's not enough data. Like we just went through a 3 month period here. There wasn't that many auctions. So it's to me, it's no use to analyze that data until you get enough to analyze it. So I analyzed the data um, on the July newsletter from January 1 to June 30th. And I've got those findings in this month's newsletter that you can see. I'm just going to start from the top and scroll down. Um, in the first part of my newsletter, I put the drought maps, and this year it's not a big deal, but in past years, man, that thing was just full of yellow and red. And at this time, I know last year people wasn't sure what kind of crop they had out in the field, and no sales was a problem at auction because there was some months we had up to 9 no sales in a month. So that told me the market was adjusting, and so. This year, I don't think we have that problem. I know we don't have that problem. I think right now everybody feels pretty good what they're going to have out to harvest. I think they think it's going to be pretty good. I know we got some issues with too much rain and drowned out spots and wind damage, but even at that, I think we're going to have a big crop, Josh.
Yeah, USDA came out yesterday with their estimates of a 188 bushel average, and that would be a record by if that holds true, almost 10 bushels. So that your would be 100% accurate in what you just said for sure.
Yeah, so what would it be like if we didn't have all these drowned out spots and wind damage? It could be even higher than that.
Right.
So driving around the state of Iowa, I haven't been to one. I've been all over the state. I have not been to one area where I didn't see good crops. Now, I will admit, you up there in the northern Iowa, you know, some of those potholes are getting drowned out because too much rain. But, other than that, it looks good. I've been down to Missouri and it looks like a garden spot down there. It's unbelievable how good crops look down there. And I've had farmers tell me this is the best year they've ever had down there. So I think it's that way all over the Midwest. What do you think about that, Josh?
Yeah, I'm with you, Jim. The we had the wettest here in the north central part of the state. We had the wettest July in the last 133 years up here. So
Yeah.
it was extremely wet. And you are seeing some stress in spots out in fields with, of course, we're in the prairie pothole region of the world up here. So we're starting to, if you don't have any drainage tile in those areas, you're definitely going to be having some issues.
Yep, 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 yep. So big crops coming. So that's what it's going to take to bushel out of these low crop prices. So hopefully there's plenty of those 300 bushel yields out there.
Right.
Yeah. So as I scroll down, one thing I always put in every month is the auction volume for that particular month. As you can see, in July 2025, there was 2,783 acres that went to auction in the state of Iowa. And then I pair it up with since I started keeping track of this data from 2018 up to 2025. And one thing that sticks out to me is we're falling back to those levels of pre-COVID. And so um, I would consider 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, the COVID years, and it brought, more land to the market because of high prices. The market's just the volume's slowing down right now, and it seems like we're kind of reverting back to pre-COVID levels of land coming to the market right now.
Jim, on that point, the 2,700 acres here in July of 2025, and I go back to like 2018, that's about in line. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so, I mean, are we kind of falling back to, I'm not saying where we should be, but where the mean has been. I mean, you go 2018, 2019, and 2020, they're all right in that realm. And of course, we had the big land boom in those just 21 and 22. Of course, I mean, look at that 11,000 acres auction there in 2022. That's just incredible.
Yeah, for July, that was unbelievable. And 2022 is the highest I would imagine is for the state ever, because it was like 150,000 acres for that year that
Wow.
went to auction. So that's what high prices will do to land auction market is just dries farms. It jars those farms loose that been held in families' hands for many, many years. This is what happened. Those prices got so high that those families decided, you know what, if I can get that out of it, let's sell it. I'm ready to sell it. And that's what happened. It just drove high quality farms to the market that have been in families for a long time. And now, prices have slowed and we're not seeing that so much in the market right now.
Well,
So
let's get to your data here, in the mid-year over the last what do we got? 2025 mid-year analysis of auction data. Let's get into that
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, sure. So I analyzed, from January 1 to June 30th, 2025, and you can see that in the first table here at the top to the left. Um, the average price per tillable acre, and that's for, farms 80% tillable and higher, 35 acres and higher, $12,940 per acre. And the weighted average CSR2 on that analysis is 77.5, which creates $167 per CSR2 point. And that's the way a lot of people measure land in Iowa is dollars per CSR2 point. It ties productivity and sale price together. So that's a way to compare apples to apples.
Yeah, for those
So
not familiar, it's the corn suitability rating that we use here in Iowa. Of course, other states like Minnesota use crop productivity index. I'm not sure what they use down in Missouri, Jim.
they ain't got nothing
They don't
down
have any other.
there.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just roll, just yeah, there's nothing.
Fair enough.
So it's kind of no man's land down there for productivity indexes, but as you can see, 197 auctions. That's how many auctions were analyzed to get that data. As you can see, looking at June 30th, 2024, there's 264 auctions. So, and same way with dollars per CSR2 point. What amazes me, Josh, is, it was $170 per point a year ago, and we only went down $167. So just I'd consider it a stable market. Uh, so just the market's just very steady right now. And I also think that low volume of acres going to auction is helping support land prices because there's just not much for sale right now.
That is
Um,
fascinating, Jim. That from 170 to only 167. I would have thought that would have been down at least $10 a point.
yeah, yeah, I couldn't believe it either. I just was surprised. And they're again talking about the volume. Last year there was a lot of farms, that would sell $20,000 an acre and higher. We don't see that right now. Maybe not. We still see it, but not like we did. And 2022 is every week. There might
Right.
be
Yeah, right.
several auctions at $20,000 an acre higher. But that goes to show you those high quality farms aren't coming to sale like they were. So it's still amazing that it's holding up so well. And one thing I want to point out is one thing that I picked up on is the number of no sales.
Right.
Um, so it has nine. I have nine for mid-year 2025, 27 for mid-year 2024. So it's three times the number in 2024. And the market was adjusting back then. Um, uh, that market when it was going on, we was getting those no sales. I thought this market's going to drop 20% because that's what I felt it did in the last run up we had in that 2013, 2014 time frame. Um, we had that big run up real fast and then it cooled off about 20%. And then it stayed flat up until the fall of 2024. And so I thought history is going to repeat itself. It's going to come down 20% and it's going to flatline. Well, it's come down almost 8% and it's flatlined. So, and as you can see, um, the difference in corn prices between mid-year last year and mid-year this year. So especially beans, that's really come down. But that all has an effect on land prices, but it's still, very steady for the decrease in crop prices that we had.
Jim, on that point, if you were to see another correction potentially, I was just doing some I just did some looking this morning at my local market, just actually across the border. New crop corn cash 352, new crop beans 972. Um, you see the two big movers, of course, the land market, commodity prices, interest rates. Paying attention to that no sale number, if you were going to see another correction in land values here in the next, say, 3 to 6 months, would you anticipate that no sale number being like what it was back in 2024?
Yeah, yeah. Typically, what I've seen looking at my data, Josh, is 0 to 3 no sales in a month is typical in a stable or an increasing market. Once we start going over 3, I think the market's starting to adjust. One of the changes we've seen, and this is what drove this, last year there was so many no sales, these auction companies started doing one chance sealed bid or sealed bid auctions. Um, and so that has drastically changed from this year, from last year. It's increased a lot. And so why did they do that? Because the market was changing, and um, when you have a no sale, that's a stigma to that property. And whoever's at that auction, you can ask them 20 years from now, what was that price, that last bid at that auction, and they can spit it right out to you. uh, and so they never forget that. And so though all those people go running out of that auction place, and they're telling all their neighbors, and their neighbors are hearing that, and then they're telling their friends, and it just spreads like wildfire. And so to avoid that, that's where we started seeing this rapid increase in sealed bid auctions, where auction company could take maybe a riskier property and put it out there, and people would bid on it. And if it didn't hit the reserve, they didn't have that stigma and no sale. That's why that changed. And so um, and going forward, I've done my auction analysis for the next 30 days. I think there's 2 sealed bid auctions. It seems like going in this fall, maybe we won't have so many of those, but here in 2025, there's been a lot of them. Every month, there's a lot of them. So
Jim,
hopefully that
are you able to, you have so many things you track, and that'd be another one having to track in there, the sealed bids. Are you able to see that increase every single month? Like you said, there's only a few that you've got on the docket that you've seen. Are you able to, do you have a number of how many sealed bids there's been in the state of Iowa?
I could figure that out. I just have to go through my analysis or my spreadsheet and count it out. But
Not that I
um,
need to add more to your workload.
yeah, yeah, just trust me, it's been a drastic increase. So that's a challenge if you're bidding on a farm. You got to know where to be at for that. So you don't overbid that. And talking to those auctioneers that have done that, they've had success doing it. I know it's not real popular with people that are bidding on those farms, but they've got results, and it's the results outweighs the negatives on it. So we'll see how it goes this fall, but there's definitely an increase in auctions coming up, and auction season usually starts up about this time, and we'll see how that goes. But looking at the data, one thing I want to point out to June 30th, 2022 was about the peak of the land market. I would say it was the all-time high here in Iowa. And as you can see, it was $13,852 per acre, $181 per CSR 2 point. That's crazy high. And if you measure that from pre-COVID, that's almost a 60% increase in about 2 years. So that's how fast that market changed. Um, it went from I think like 100 to $110 a point up to $181 a point in just, about 2 years. So rapid increase in land prices, but it's, slowly come down. It seems like we flatlined. As you can see, those corn prices in June 2022, $7.28 for corn, 15.68 for beans, over 45% decrease from then till now. And we've only seen and if analyzing the data on dollars per CSR2 point, it's 7.7% decrease from June 30th, 2022 to present. So that's it. So,
Wow.
we had almost a 60% increase from COVID, and corn prices have fell off 44%. And I've only seen a 7.7% decrease. So if you're thinking of selling, I think this is a good time. I think the sooner the better, in my opinion, Josh.
Yep. Jim, do you potentially see with commodity prices, so depressed at the moment, USDA predicting a massive crop, interest rates still holding fairly high, potentially more land coming on the market here in the next 3 to 6 months, just with those factors?
Uh, do you think, so you're asking me, do I think land prices are going to hold stable, or do you think they're going to trend lower?
Well,
Is
I'm
that
not
the
looking at your
question?
crystal ball. I guess here's my question with because I think you're spot on with, because you're like, how is this possible? We've had commodity prices that have dipped by almost 50%. Land market really has only come down, 8%. What's keeping everything afloat essentially? Like, why hasn't the bottom fallen out? Well, we're at where we have a lack of inventory of farms on the market. I guess my question is, if with commodity prices being so low, are there people going to have to potentially sell property in order to make their cash flows work? And then you're going
I
to see a
think
lot of farmland on the market. Just a observation there potentially.
I think that there'll be some of that. I think it's going to be a small percentage, Josh. Um, what I'm being told, there's still a lot of cash out here in rural Iowa looking for a home, looking to buy land. So, based on the results so far this year, it seems to be a strong demand for Iowa farmland right now, and I'm hearing that across the Midwest. I think the people that are going to be affected the most, Josh, are those farmers that cash rent most of their farm ground that might either own very little or might not own any. They cash rent it all, or what they own is a small percentage of what they farm. Those guys are being affected right now. Those margins are so tight right now. Some of those young guys have never seen margins this tight. It's going to affect them. And as I talk to um, companies that invest in land, they're starting to talk about an increase in sale leasebacks. They're starting to get some of those calls for sale leasebacks. It's not a drastic change, but they said it went from nothing to we're starting to get some calls for that. And that's people, farmers trying to straighten up their balance sheets.
Like I said, with $3.50 corn and under $10 beans, there's gonna be a lot of pain out here. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it just things are tight. So
Yeah.
you know, on the
Yeah.
speaking of that, Jim, on the cash rent side, not to get off of our topic here, but just we'll sidetrack just a little bit. Cash rent data. What are you seeing cash rents? Obviously, with tight balance sheets, are we getting a correction there?
Well, I just got some results from a big landowner in Northwest Iowa who shares me their rent data, and they farm or own over 1,000 acres in high quality farm ground, and their rents are going to stay steady. They're going to be the same for 2026 as they were 2025, no adjustment.
Wow.
And they said those farmers had no problem with that. Visiting with farm managers, they consider it's going to be stable. Um, as I collected cash rent data, from last year, you'd expected there would be a huge adjustment, but if it was negotiated via cash rent auction, there was no change from last year to the year before. And last year was the highest input cost they'd ever had putting in a crop in, and there was no adjustment for that. Now I did see adjustments with people that privately negotiate their rents. That, they don't go searching for new tenants. They want the same tenant all the time. And they felt they were at market rent and they made, maybe a $20 to $30 per acre adjustment last year for, to help those tenants that they want to keep out. Um, Josh, I think it's going to be steady. It just everything is telling me it's going to be steady.
Does that surprise you? I mean, like I said, with commodity prices being so low, interest rates elevated, I just got my quote for uh fall fertilizer and my phosphate. That is just it's astronomical. And I'm just
Well,
how
that's
how is this going to work?
That's what surprises me too, Josh. They're saying those fertilizer prices are going up next year. The input costs are going to go up. How can that be?
I don't
Cash
know.
rents, so far, what I'm hearing is going to be steady.
You're right.
And I was talking to somebody last week about that. It was a farm manager, and he was telling me, I think they're going to be steady. I'm like, how can that be? And he's like, well, if that person doesn't pay that rent, there's somebody that will, and it won't take very long to find somebody. So I think that's what's kind of playing into it, Josh, is there's so many people wanting to add acres that um, they'll pay whatever to get it. And that's what seemed to be last year. It seems it's going to be the way this year. Now well, I don't have a lot of data right now. But that cash rent data, what I do pick up, it's just a sliver of what's going on out here. But it's what I find out is very consistent. So it's a good gauge to see what everybody's thinking. Anyway,
I do find it fascinating, just the two topics we've talked about thus far, the land market that really is holding steady. And when
yeah,
in
yeah,
reality, market forces from what we're seeing would tell us otherwise, right? Like your
absolutely.
167 per CSR 2 point, in my mind, I'm just going, it's amazing that has held what it has held with the massive headwinds that we are having right now and facing, right? And then like the cash run, it's the same way. Like with all of those headwinds, we're still holding steady. Do you see on the let's go a little bit into the future here, Jim, on the land side, what you're seeing 3 to 6 months here, you're feeling things are gonna maybe soften in some areas, but hold steady.
Well, I'll say this, Josh. I know one thing. I'm pretty sure, almost 100% positive, it's not going up. So we've got two directions, either flat or down. And so my pick of those is that we hold steady or go down slightly. Um, and I if history repeats itself, we could go down 20%. But right now, with the low amount of no sales, it's telling me we're just kind of holding steady right now.
Yeah.
Um, Now, last year those corn prices they got down pretty low, and that's cranked up those no sales. But part of that too at this time was nobody was sure what kind of crop they had out there. And but it seemed like the election kind of stabilized the market. And then after we got into the new year, that really seemed to really stabilize the market, if not, just a tick higher, because corn rallied there after the first of the year. And just there was just seemed like the optimism changed from the election to the first of the year. It just got better and kind of stabilized it.
Jim, do you feel this may be a difficult question to answer just as I'm thinking about it? Do you think the emergency commodity assistance program, that 10 billion that Congress approved at the end of 2024 and made its way into the farm economy here in the first quarter, do you think that helped stabilize land prices at all? I know it obviously filled some of the gaps that the 24 crop left in farmers' balance sheets. Do you think that had any influence at all?
I don't think it did. I think it might have helped a little bit. I don't think they've gotten all those payments yet, Josh. So it might have helped a bit, but if they didn't have that, I think we'd still be where we're at today.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And part of that is, Josh, I heard more people talk about 300 bushel corn last year than I ever heard talk
No
about it.
kidding.
And they just busheled themselves out of those low commodity prices. That's what I think happened.
Yeah. Jim, on your data here, anything else we need to make sure we touch on here?
Um, no, just I talk about, if history repeats itself, we could go down 20%. But it seems like it's just holding steady, but there's potential for it to go down if these headwinds take over of what you're talking about. So I think, selling sooner is better than later. If To me, this market's a gift. We had no idea at COVID time the market was going to shoot up 60% in 2 years. If you look at my newsletters back at that time frame, I was telling people, get ready because things are changing and it's not going to be good because we never see anything like this. And I remember watching those auctions and I was like, wow, that farm sold pretty good. And I remember in 2020 in October, that market just changed on a dime. I mean, it was just a light switch. And I remember doing the auction research through those realtors' websites, and there was a lot of farms listed for sale that had been on the market for a long time. And overnight, they disappeared. And that market was just starving for acres, and it just went wild up until, no, 2022. And that market started changing. And I'll tell you when it started changing from 2022 from the peak was when they started talking about higher interest rates. That's when it decline started. So I think we're going to get some relief with interest rates in the future. Um, I think that's going to be positive for land. But we've got to get more markets for corn. There's just no doubt about that. We got to get more markets.
No doubt about that. I think the other interesting fact on that, Jim, is land's how it's softened here the last couple of years, but it's up over 50% since 2020.
Yep,
Right.
yep. So what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. And you're still selling it way higher than your parents would ever thought you'd get out of that farm. So that's why I think, there's nothing wrong with this market. If you're just down, almost 8% from the peak, what's wrong with that? You could be 20% down right now. So,
Yeah, no
but we're
kidding.
not.
Yeah,
We're not.
exactly.
So, so anyway, just scrolling down, I talk about Land Hero and then, and there again, on those sealed bid auctions, if you need to get information fast in either county or crop district or statewide, Land Hero is your resource for making those sealed bids. You can just buy it just, for a day or whatever you need. And it's got very current sale data in there. So, and then at the bottom of my newsletter, the narrative, I put the cash corn and soybean prices from the first day of the month or the first business day of the month and then the year earlier. So as you can see, that August 1st, we're at 388 at the ethanol plant in Menlo, Iowa, 967 at the bean plant here in Des Moines. So definitely lower than it has been in years past. So and then as you go down, then I've got all the auction results. Um, One thing I do want to talk about is if you see in dollars per acre undisclosed, that was probably a sealed bid auction. And I can't get those results until they close the sale. So I'll ask the auctioneer, did it sell? They'll say yes. So I'll put undisclosed. So that means it did sell, but for an undisclosed price. And if it says under undetermined, that means I contacted the auctioneer for the data and they wouldn't respond. So that probably could be a no sale, but there's no guarantees on that. So as you go down, you can see the data, the county acres and then that's about it. And probably in September, I'll start adding cash rent data as I pick it up.
No, very, very helpful data. Of course, the stuff that us as farm realtors and farmers look at every single month when you have those numbers that come out, trying to get a feel for where the market's at, where it's heading. That's why it's great to have you on today, Jim, of course. Uh, Jim, if we want to pretend kind of bigger picture stuff here, you were quoted in the Des Moines Register, something maybe most people don't realize. 20 million of Iowa's 30 million crop acres is owned by people 65 and older, and 40% of that is owned by people 75% and older. Let's talk a little bit big picture Iowa farmland, what that's going to look like here in the next 5 to 10 years, and what the landscape is going to look like.
Yeah, sure, sure. Um, I think the new generation of landowner are going to be a lot different than their parents. And what I mean by that is they're going to what I'm hearing, and I get calls from all over the country, people doing Google searches, and they'll call me and start talking to me. Um, there's some people that will retain ownership of the farm. You know, if it's maybe just one or two people, they could keep it just for family history and um, but what I'm hearing from some is, you know, we haven't raised the rent on this farm since dad died. Dad's been gone several years and dad negotiated the rent before he died. And we think we're getting screwed. I see some of that coming. As we see more, um, as those heirs acquire land, if there's more heirs on a farm, say maybe up to 10, the likelihood of that farm selling is very high. Those people will want to cash it out and move on. Um, so I think the landscape's changing and the new landlords are going to be different from their parents. They're going to be conservation minded. They're not going to have, you can consider those relationships that their mom and dad had with their tenant as important as what they think. I think they're going to want, you know, top dollar and they're going to be picky on how it's farmed. They're going to be conservation minded. As those farms come up for sale, when those heirs, when there's so many heirs, they decide to sell or whatever reason they sell. Um, you know, farmers are going to be in the driver's seat trying to buy those acres that join them. But we're also seeing a pickup in investment type of companies wanting to, you know, acquire land as well because it's such a stable investment. And, you know, especially as the stock market has been so volatile lately, it drives people from the stock market to the land market right now because it's such a stable investment. And so I can see that, you know, happening as well.
Yeah, I mean that's. I thought this was interesting. I did an interview with Dr. Robbie out of Iowa State earlier this year. That 84% of that land, Jim, is owned unencumbered as well.
Yeah.
Which is just fascinating.
Yeah. There's plenty of multimillionaires here in Iowa. That's for sure. Carrying no debt. So that's what I'm saying. Those heirs are going to find out what that land's worth, and a lot of them are going to sell it, but some of them will keep it, and those ones that keep it, um, they're not going to have those relationships with that tenant, and they're going to have expectations of how that farm is farmed,
Right.
is what I think. And as those investors come in, buying land, they're going to be expecting top returns, and I think they're going to be concerned about how that land is farmed as well, more so than we've ever seen it before. So, so that's what some changes. I think as farmers are still going to be in a driver's seat, uh, trying to buy land. They're driving the market now. Investors can't compete with them because a farmer, their hold period could be 50 to 100 years. And so, you know, if they pay too much for a farm today, 50 years from now, it doesn't matter. It's going to look like such a good investment that those heirs will be wondering why they didn't buy more land at that price. So,
Right.
so definitely some changes as far as farm operators. I think they're going to have to get huge because there's so many retirements. Uh, those guys that are retiring, they're even retiring early, and those young guys that are still out here, they're going to have to farm some big acres, and they're going to have to use technology to get all that done.
So in a way, Jim, too, you see some, unfortunately, it's sounding like more consolidation in agriculture.
Absolutely. Consolidation's been going on since the 1930s, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. And it kind of seems like it's speeding up maybe a little bit right now.
Yeah. Well, Jim, if there's anything else we need to be paying attention to here before you end the interview, anything else you want to tell everybody here?
Well, I think, we're just right at the beginning of fall auction season, so it's an exciting time of the year. And if you're wanting to keep track of those auctions, I try to post as many as I can out on social media, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. So just kind of follow me and kind of keep track of it, or sign up for my newsletter. That'll keep you informed. If you're wanting to buy land, check out Land Hero. That's data at your fingertips that can help you through those sealed bid auctions or auctions by bid or whatever. So you've got current market data right there. Um, I think there's going to be some auctions that fall through the cracks, and there's going to be some buying opportunities. So I would tell your listeners to, pay attention and get to those auctions. And if you're looking to buy, be ready, because there could be something to fall through the cracks and be a buying opportunity. It doesn't happen very much, but it does happen.
You heard it here first.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Jim, can't tell you how much I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for all the information you provide all of us in agriculture, whether we're the farm realtor side, the farming side, or just people interested in Iowa land, which should be everybody.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's very popular topic. I go to meetings, and that's what everybody wants to talk about. So it's good to have that down. I always knew Iowa was blessed to have this land auction market. Coming from Missouri, we didn't have these land auctions down there. It's hard to determine what a farm was worth. But I come to Iowa and seen all these land auctions, and I'm like, man, you guys are blessed and you don't even know it.
Right.
So, having that current data is definitely a good thing. It's a win-win for everybody having that current data like that.
No, we appreciate like I said, the labor of love you put together each month for all of us to try to figure out where, like I said, where land prices are at and where the market's potentially heading. So appreciate all the good information this morning, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh, and had fun doing this today.
Absolutely had a blast. All right, everybody, this is Josh Mansky, Farm Realtor at the Corn Belt Newsletter, signing off here, and we will see you guys soon.